What's up, everybody? This is Dylan with episode 13 of Next on Deck. We got a little new setup here, I guess. I don't know. We're gonna be trying out some new setups, I guess. We're gonna see what does best. Plus, Ryan's computer speakers weren't working, so we got to do it this way for now. Which is cool. But we got a jam-packed episode for you today. A lot has happened in the past week in the world of sports. And also, I will finally be getting my best friend, Zach, on the show today. So he'll be talking about basketball as that is his main sport. But before he comes on, Ryan, we're going to start out with the Matthew Stafford rumors. It's been the Lions and Matthew Stafford have agreed to part ways this offseason, and there are many teams that are just a quarterback away from being serious contenders. Stafford is 32 years old and still has some good years left in him, but teams might have to give up more than a first-round pick to get him. Ryan, what teams do you see going after Matthew Stafford?
I think Stafford's going to have to end up at a team that's based not on the run game. Or based more on the run game and like a non-mobile quarterback. So I think I see him ending somewhere like the Colts. Now that Phillip Rivers is gone, I think they have a similar play style.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's my top team of his landing spot right now.
Yeah, I think the Colts are definitely the preferred location for Matthew Stafford. And I know the Colts GM is always known for trading first-round picks for veteran players, as the trade with DeForest Buckner. I would say worked out pretty well for them, considering they only gave up, a first-round pick. But, the Colts are already a solidified team in the playoffs. They got a great defense. They are really one of those teams that, they just need a quarterback, to kind of make that final push into the playoffs. But I also see the 49ers kind of being a main team to go after Stafford because, Jimmy Garoppolo, yeah, he's decent. He's a system quarterback. But, Stafford is a major upgrade over Garoppolo. And, if they trade Garoppolo, they probably don't have to give up many other picks either. The 49ers have been dealing with a lot of injuries this year, with Nick Bosa going out and George Kittle being in and out, and, Raheem Mostert. So, I could see the 49ers really making a push towards him because, if they do get him, they could be very serious contenders in the NFC. Speaking of quarterbacks that want to get traded, Deshaun Watson joins the list while he asked the Texans for a trade this offseason. While Deshaun Watson does have a no-trade clause, this means he can decide what team he goes to, if he, doesn't like what the Texans, are doing in the front office. Watson he's obviously going to have a higher asking value than Matthew Stafford, one, because he's younger, and one, he's a lot better. So Ryan, what teams do you see going after Watson? Do you see the Colts still making a push for him, or do you think there's some other teams in the mix here?
I think that there'd be too much that would have to change in the Colts offense if they went for a quarterback like Watson.
Mm-hmm.
I think my top teams for Deshaun Watson is the Patriots. I think Belichick's going to make a real hard push to try to get Watson. Now that he's mad at, now that he's been showed up as not the reason that Patriots have been so good, I think he's going to want a big time quarterback under his belt.
Right, yeah, and it seems like obviously Cam Newton wasn't the answer for the Patriots, and I don't really see any free agent quarterbacks out there that are really going to fit, the Patriots well into Belichick's system, and that he's going to be satisfied with. So I could definitely see the Patriots going after him, but I think the top team for me, honestly, is probably the Jets. And it might not make much sense that Watson would want to go to the Jets. But a main reason why he asked the Texans, well, one, it's because, they were 4-12 and he put up, Pro Bowl like numbers and, they were 4-12. But the Jets, the head coach they hired, Watson worked with a lot in the offseason and in college. So, that's a guy that he wants to grow with. And I feel like, the Jets, they've always had a bad reputation. So it's surprising that Watson would want to go to a team like this. But I feel like he, sees something that we don't see. And, maybe there's some building blocks in the Jets system that he can really, utilize and, help grow that franchise. But another team that I think should go after Deshaun Watson is the Dolphins, who I think would be crazy scary if they got Deshaun Watson, because again, they're similar to the Colts in the way that, they have a top tier defense. And, if you plug Watson into that, their offense isn't the greatest, but, if you plug Watson in, he's going to have better weapons than he did in Houston. And look at the numbers he put up there. So I could totally see, the Dolphins or the Jets going after him. Maybe the Bears make a push too. Another team with a great defense with no quarterback, as they probably will not re-sign Trubisky. Even though he actually, Ryan, fun fact, he had a winning record with the Bears while he was starting. So that's pretty surprising, but that just shows you how good that defense is. All right, so now we are going to move on to our game reactions from this past week, which was the NFL Conference Championship round. And, they were very exciting to watch. They were very eventful. First game we're going to go over is Packers versus Bucks, which I called last week. I called that upset. I won $20 from my dad, so, I'm going to use it on some Sheets runs probably. But so the Buccaneers won that game 31-26 in the matchup of the GOATs. Ryan, what are your biggest takeaways from that game?
I mean, that first half Bucks defense was just a wall. It really slowed down Aaron Rodgers and that high-powered offense, and that was kind of what took the game. After that point, it was just hard to come back from such a deficit. I mean, Aaron Rodgers had an insane second half, but it was like too little, too late.
Right. Yeah, and honestly, I was surprised that they didn't come back as much in the second half. If they would have probably played mediocre, I think they would have won this game, because Brady really struggled in that second half. He was just lobbing the ball up to Mike Evans, which, I can't blame him because it's Mike Evans. I would lob the ball up to him too, but not with like 3 or 4 corners around him, and especially one of them being Jair Alexander. So Brady played, pretty well, but that Bucks defense looked pretty strong. And Ryan, actually, what was your thought on Matt LaFleur's call to kick a field goal at the end of the game instead of going for it on 4th and goal?
I think they should have gone for it. At that point, it was like they had their timeouts, but it would have been really hard to try to get that back. I think they'd have been in a little better position if they had gone for it.
Yeah, true. I mean, they had the 2-minute warning and the 4 timeouts. And LaFleur kind of explained that, the situation was their defense was playing pretty well. I'll give it to him, definitely in the second half. So he just had the confidence in the defense, that they were going to be able to put up a stop. And, it's hard to bet against Aaron Rodgers in that situation. But, a field goal, it puts you up with, you only need a touchdown and, you win the game, instead of having to, go for 2 then, even if they would have got the touchdown on 4th and goal. But, tough decision by Matt LaFleur. That's kind of what defines a head coach, those kind of calls that you make. Aaron Rodgers was obviously displeased with that call. I probably would have been too if I was in his shoes, especially, the kind of season he's having. But, the Packers just kind of struggled, all around. They just did not look like a number 1 seed. There were multiple drops in the end zone. Aaron Jones couldn't really get things going. So, I think Rodgers has really got to, have that mindset next year that this is the best team I think he's had, at least since his Super Bowl run in 2010, 2011. So, Rodgers, I feel like you still got to have faith in your team. Obviously he's not going to get traded because I'm pretty sure Green Bay would burn his house down. But yeah, so that was kind of our reaction for the first game. Now the second game, we got Bills Chiefs, which was a little less competitive, as probably most would have predicted. But Ryan, what were your kind of takeaways from that game?
I was really disappointed in the way the Bills played in the red zone. They just couldn't finish. I mean, you can't beat a team like the Chiefs with just field goals. They made really good pushes to get there, and then they would just get halted every time, which also goes to show that the Kansas City defense isn't something to be scoffed at. I mean, they can make big stops when it matters.
Yeah, I know. And Tyrann Mathieu, really did a great job leading that defense. And I think he's the main reason why the Chiefs are where they are. It's not all Mahomes and, Tyreek Hill and everything. But, yeah, the Chiefs were playing pretty well. The Bills just, couldn't convert those field goals into touchdowns. And, I feel like they got a little frustrated at the end of the game, being such a young team, having such a great year, getting so far, and, to kind of, get let down like this. I think this could be the start of a rivalry in a way, where, these two teams are going to see each other a lot in, AFC championship years to come. So, that's going to be exciting to watch. Right now, we're going to bring in my best friend from back home, Zach Mulh. Hopefully he answers his phone. All right. Well, Zach, thanks for joining the podcast today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. I know it's been kind of hard to get me on, but I appreciate you having me
I know
on.
you're probably the hardest guest I've tried to get on this. So we got an interesting guest next week, but anyway, so Zach, we're gonna start out with talking about Kyrie and the Nets. So my question to you is, does Kyrie make the Nets better? Do you think the Nets should consider trading Kyrie? Or do you think the team just needs like more time to, kind of gel together? What are your kind of thoughts on that?
Well, in terms of time, I mean, I think the more time they spend together, it'll definitely show like whether they can play together as a trio because I think that Kevin Durant can definitely. I mean, he's played with one of the best trios ever with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. So I
Right,
think
yeah.
if
He is Kevin Durant.
if Kyrie and Harden can be unselfish, then I think with time they can do something with that.
Yeah, and I think Harden's really starting to play more like an unselfish player. I think he kind of understands his role that he can't, put up 40 shots a game. When he's, got KD and Kyrie in the lineup. So Harden's doing, I think he's doing pretty well in the Nets so far. I kind of like the rotation they're doing with starting KD and Harden and then having Kyrie come off the bench. Because, they basically traded their entire bench to get James Harden and their entire future. So, if this doesn't really work out, the Nets are kind of screwed. But, it's kind of hard to see how this wouldn't work out, with probably the three best ISO scorers in the league. So, yeah, I think the Nets should stick with it. But I think they should also be open to the idea of it because, it's going to be hard to compete, against teams like the Sixers or the Lakers, when they don't have a bench.
Right.
Yeah. So, Ryan, what are your kind of thoughts?
I mean, obviously, with time, everything's going to get better with that team, and they're crazy good scorers, and they can just outscore any team. But I think if they should, like you said, be open to that trade because they could maybe pick up some bench players as well as maybe a good defensive player. I think right now with no defense, it's going to be hard to compete.
Yeah, they're really just trying to outscore teams right now. So, we'll see if that works out. But, it's going to be tough on teams like the Lakers where, you have multiple guys that can put up, 20 plus a game or the Bucks, really any of those teams. So we'll see how the Nets do. I still think they're not going to go to the finals. They might prove me wrong, but, we'll see.
If Harden and Kyrie were better two-way players, like on the defensive end, I definitely say that they should, go with the trio and, you know, besides the offensive problems that they could have having three like big ISO scorers. Because I mean, if you look at the best trios in history, I mean, there's always two. You got two main guys that can score, and then you have a defensive player or someone who's willing to be unselfish and kind of take less shots. I mean, you had LeBron and D Wade, and they were taking the majority of the shots, and Chris Bosh kind of stepped into that
Right.
third supporting role. With the Spurs, the great trio like Ginobili, Parker, and Tim Duncan. Ginobili and sometimes Parker, they had to take a step back, and I think that's kind of where if this trio will thrive, that's going to be they're all pretty mature in their careers, so hopefully they can. Well, I mean, they're veterans, right?
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I was just laughing a little bit because Kyrie still
Obviously
doesn't
Kyrie has
score.
the off the court and the
Yeah,
locker
and
room
he's
problems, but
he's got his personal stuff, whatever. But yeah, I like what you said because I think also that's why that's what made Steph, Clay, and KD so great is that Clay was such a great perimeter defender,
exactly.
and he is probably one of the most unselfish players in the NBA. So he kind of took a step back and obviously let Steph and KD take most of the shots. And KD's not the best defender, but
I think Kevin
with his
Durant's
wingspan,
underrated.
he's
He's an
still
underrated
going to play
defender.
good defense.
I think he's an underrated defender. I mean, he's really long and he can get at least a block a game. And I think you can put him on a top scorer, like a 2 guy on somebody else's team, and he'll do pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. So the next topic we got, we're going to talk about Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal, I'm sorry. You've been through a lot. You've had your best friend traded, in the beginning of the year. You probably got the least efficient player in return. And all your other starters are hurt. So Bradley Beal, I apologize what you're going through right now, and I don't blame him for requesting a trade to get the hell out of Washington D.C. Because in the last 10 games that he's put up 40 points, the Wizards are 0-10. They are 0-10 when he scores 40-point games. Zach, what teams do you kind of see targeting Bradley Beal? Where do you think he would kind of fit in best?
I think honestly, like any team that could get Bradley Beal, I mean, without giving up too much, that'd be a great addition. Because I mean, I think Bradley Beal will. I mean, at this point, he's willing to do anything to not anything to succeed, but he's willing to make the sacrifices to be on a winning team. So, I mean, he's a great. He's a good defender. He can go out and score 40. He's a great offensive player. So, I mean, I know you were talking to me earlier about the Sixers. I think he'd be great on the Sixers, and I'd love to see him on the Sixers because
that would
be a Sixers fan. So I mean, if we could get him, that'd be awesome.
I think 100% we'd be East favorites immediately if we get Bradley Beal.
I think
depending what we'd have to give up.
Conversation.
Yeah, depending what we have to give up. Hopefully, we wouldn't have to give up Simmons, but we might. And I think it would honestly be kind of worth it, just because Bradley Beal is that good. I don't know. I mean, Ben Simmons does fit in our offense really well. But, I think the Heat would be a perfect destination for Bradley Beal because that would create, that trio of Beal, Butler, and Bam, where Bam is kind of the defensive guy who can get rebounds and still put up, 20 points a game. Butler can kind of facilitate the offense a little bit, and, Beal can be the main scorer on that team. So the Heat could be very scary again if they are able to get Bradley Beal. But I also saw the Lakers and the Clippers rumored to go after him. I don't know what they're going to give up to get him. Yeah. I have no idea because obviously, neither of them are going to trade their top 2 guys. But, Ryan, what teams do you see going after him?
Well, I don't want to see him go to the Sixers because I just don't like Philly sports. It's just a thing I have to do. Despite me having friends in Philly now, I have to hate you guys.
Well, it's because Pittsburgh doesn't have a basketball team. That's why you're hating on the Sixers.
That's true.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll come to Pittsburgh. I don't know. It'll be a little weird, but we'll try it out. Honestly, I mean, I agree with the Heat. I think that would be a really solid pickup, especially with them kind of slacking right now if they could pick that up. But I also could see him going to the Warriors. I feel like he would be a good backcourt partner for Steph since he doesn't really have one at the moment. I think they might be able to kind of revive that dynasty if they got him in there.
Yeah, and even when Klay comes back, I think if you put Klay at small forward, put Beal at the 2, Curry at point guard, it'd be a scary trio. Even with the Warriors already being as scary as they are.
Playing really good, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think he's going to be good in the next few years here.
I think so. Yeah, and the Warriors, I mean, I don't know. They definitely need to do something if they want to be up in the, kind of contender conversation because James Wiseman's great, but when he's playing, I'm pretty sure the Warriors are being outscored by 66.
He's not a good defensive player, so
he doesn't have the IQ really and that's another Lonzo Ball. We won't talk about it today because it's kind of a longer show, but he's also rumored to get traded. But the Warriors are one of the teams that Lonzo might go to because they do need guys with better IQ, and that's why they put Looney in there because he definitely has a better IQ than James Wiseman, and they're doing a lot better with that starting lineup of Looney in there. But yeah, there's many teams that Beal could go to. Definitely, he's gonna whatever team gets him are gonna be championship contenders, in my opinion.
I mean, if the Heat end up signing him, they got a really good young core, but I mean, they're already contenders. If they sign Bradley Beal, I think they'll be, the number one favorite in the East. Personally, in my opinion, if they get Beal.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, especially after making that finals run last year, if you add Bradley Beal to that conversation, oof, it's pretty scary.
Good team.
All right, Zach. Well, to finish up the basketball portion of the podcast, I got a little game for you. It's pretty simple. It's just called overrated, underrated.
Right.
I'm gonna give you 5 players and 3 teams, and I'll give you their stats/records, and then you're just gonna give a little short description of why you think they're overrated or underrated. You ready?
Yeah, ready.
All right. So the first player I got for you, Julius Randle, power forward on the Knicks. Right now, he's averaging 22 points per game, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. Zach, is he underrated or overrated?
He's obviously doing a lot better, but I think he's overrated. When you put a good player on the Knicks, they're obviously going to get a majority of the shots, and they're going to, he's a good player and he's a good utility player, but I think he's definitely improving, but right now he's overrated because he's on the Knicks.
Yeah, right. I'm going to have to agree with you there. Yeah, Julius Randle, I mean, he's putting up way better numbers than he did last year on the Knicks. I'll give him that. Yeah, but I'll agree with you. I think he is a little overrated, especially because he's averaging about 38 minutes a game. So
Right.
if you play that long and, you should be kind of putting up those numbers. But
Yeah.
All right, next player we got, Jeremiah Grant on the Pistons. Right now he's averaging 24 points per game, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Zach, is he overrated or is he underrated?
You're a rookie.
He's not a rookie. He was on the Nuggets last year. He was kind of a bench guy for them, averaged about 13 a game. Man, we need to get some basketball analysts on here that know who Jeremy Grant is.
Honestly, I've never heard of him, so I can't really make an educated.
All right. Well, I'll make an educated guess since I guess this is my game. I think Jeremiah Grant is underrated, and it's not just because he is on the Pistons, and Blake Griffin can't really score anymore because he lost his athleticism, so they don't really have that main ball handler or that scorer. But I think Jeremiah Grant has made great strides in his game, especially in his ISO game. He's doing a lot better in the paint. I don't think people give enough credit to him, and it really shows that he's able to put up these kind of numbers because he wasn't last year when he was on the Nuggets because Jokic and Jamal Murray were kind of the main scorers there. So Jeremiah Grant can really shine in the Pistons offense, and I think this is a player they can really use and grow with as a franchise, especially after losing Christian Wood. And he's doing pretty well on the Rockets too. But Zach, all right. So the next player we got, you for sure will know, Bam Adebayo. He's averaging 20 points per game, 9 rebounds, 5.5 assists, and 0.8 blocks per game. Zach, is he overrated or is he underrated?
Honestly, I think he's underrated because I think he could be one of the next great, power forward center, like Anthony Davis type player. He's obviously not as great of a scorer, and he can't.
But he can't shoot.
He can't really create his own shot, but I think he could definitely develop into a really good player. So I think right now he's underrated because I think there's a lot of room to grow, and he's got the fundamentals of a good basketball player.
Yeah, he's great in the paint too. I still think his block against Tatum last year in the playoffs was probably one of the best blocks ever, honestly, in the playoffs.
Well, and I mean, when you get a young guy on a team like that, they're gonna grow a lot more because he's gonna be put into situations where he's gonna have to show what he can do. And I think with that combination, and he's got a lot of good players around him, like veterans,
Right.
So I think he's got a healthy situation going on, so I think he can grow a lot, and I think he's underrated.
Next player I got for you, Zach, Zach Lavine. Currently, he's averaging 27 points per game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.3 steals a game. Zach, is he overrated or is he underrated?
So I think he's underrated. If you would have asked me a year or two ago, I would have said he's really underrated because he's athletic. He's in the prime of his career. He's a good defender, not a great defender, but I mean, he can create his own shot, and he has been on teams that have been subpar because, his stats maybe pad a little bit, but
Right. Well, Zach, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think Zach Lavine is underrated, and if he's not an all-star this year,
definitely
it
an
might
all-star.
be karma because he kind of took away some dunk championship or dunk contest from Aaron Gordon. But yeah, Zach Levine's a great player for the Bulls. I can't believe they're actually considered trading him because the Bulls are so young. I feel like Zach Lavine has really flourished into a number one option. And I think he is underrated. But it's kind of hard. It's kind of always hard to look at these guys on worse teams. Them putting up these kind of numbers. Yeah, but like you said, Lavine is doing great, creating his own shots. Great 3-point shooter. I think he is probably one of the most underrated players in the league. All right, so last player we got is Colin Sexton. Right now, he's averaging 24.5 points per game, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.1 steals. Zach, is he overrated or is he underrated?
So I know he's kind of getting a little hype right now because he had a good game against the Nets, like about 40-some points against Kyrie. I think he definitely has the mentality, right? He has the the
He has the
Michael
Mamba
Jordan.
mentality.
He doesn't take plays off. I mean, I saw him play in high school. He's a dog. I mean, if you need to go get a bucket or a defensive stop, So I think he's getting a lot of hype right now. So I definitely don't think he's overrated, but I wouldn't quite say he's really underrated. I think he's just getting the credit right now that he deserves. So,
It's funny you say that, Zach, because I was going to give the same exact answer. I don't think he's either overrated or underrated. I think he, is getting the recognition he deserves. I would consider him an elite defender. I think he's, really flourished in that kind of position. And he's starting to score more on the Cavs. He's starting to become, kind of their number one option a little bit and, kind of take over games. So I think Colin Sexton, I mean, he's probably closer to underrated than overrated, in my opinion. But yeah, Ryan, what are your thoughts on Colin Sexton?
I'd have to agree. I mean, he's obviously doing really well, but I feel like everyone's giving him that credit on how well he's doing.
Yeah.
He's a good player who's getting a lot of good hype at the moment. So, I mean, he's just rated.
Yeah, he's just rated. All right. So those were the 5 players. So, Zach, I'm going to give you 3 teams. So the first one, you probably saw coming, the Nets. Right now, they are 13-8. I'm pretty sure they're 8-2 in their last 10 games. I might be wrong on that, but they've done really well in their past 10 games. So, Zach, do you think they're overrated or underrated?
It's hard to say that they're underrated or overrated because I mean they have 3 really good players. So I mean it's hard to just say like they're not playing well because it's
Right.
I think it's a little early to tell. But anyone who doesn't think that I think the Nets can really figure it out this year and definitely be like playoff contenders. I'm not quite sure. People that say that they're gonna win a finals anything but a finals like a championship this year is a disappointment. I think they're overrating the Nets because I think it does take time, especially when you have like 2 players like Harden and Kyrie who aren't really they haven't really been with 2 other like main scorers. They've been with one guy who's kind of been like a veteran almost. So I'm not sure about I'd say that they definitely deserve the hype they're getting because it's 3 of the best players of all time on the same team. So right now I'm gonna have to say they're maybe a little bit overrated because I think a lot of people think that they should win a championship, but I think championship takes time to build a team, and they don't really have, like you were talking before, they really don't have a bench. So
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. I also think they're overrated. It's hard to say because they have KD, and KD is KD, one
right.
of the best players in the league. I think he's gonna win the MVP this year. The way he's playing, it probably helps that he is coming off that Achilles tear. So. But yeah, I think the Nets are a little overrated just because they don't have a bench, and again, it's going to be hard to compete against teams with a bench because, Kyrie, Harden, and Durant only have so much energy. They're not going to be able to play every minute of every game. So, the Nets are just going to have to find other options, off the bench. I know they're looking at, Kevin Love, and man, if they got Andre Drummond, that would be really scary because Andre Drummond, probably one of the best rebounders in the game. But yeah, I think the Nets are a little overrated. I also don't think I wouldn't say they'd be a bust if they didn't go to the finals because, like you said, it does take time. And LeBron and the Heat, they lost the first year of their trio in the finals,
And I
against
think they had a
Dirk.
much better, a much more well-rounded team than
Right. And yeah, and exactly. And, they did have a way better bench. And I feel like they
than
did have a
LeBron.
little better chemistry because, like, I don't know, LeBron and D-Wade just seemed like the perfect duo.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I do think they are overrated. But all right, the next team we got, Zach, is the Hawks. Right now, they are 10-9. Trae Young is kind of struggling a little bit. But Zach, are they overrated or are they underrated?
I think they're my God, I'd probably say a little overrated right now because they are so young, but they do have, they're young, but they don't. I don't think they really have like they're missing a lot of pieces. So
Wow.
you can't. I don't know. I think they're a little overrated,
I
honestly.
think they're insanely underrated.
Really.
I mean, you got Clint Capella, who's putting up I swear he's putting up like at least 16 rebounds a game. He's still averaging 15. DeAndre Hunter has really come into shape as their second scoring option, and he's probably averaging, I don't know, 23 a game, I'm pretty sure. Trae Young is struggling a little bit. He does need to do better. Then they also got John Collins there too. Solid 20 points per game. They need defensively, they do need to find
I
some,
think.
they do need to be better defensively, but I mean, I think they could be like a 6 seed this year in the East.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't, even if they do make the play, I think if they make, this is my personal opinion on the
Oh, well,
Hawks.
they're going to go out first round if they make the
That's
playoffs.
well, and,
Sure.
and see, that's the thing. Like, I don't really think they're gonna do much. They're gonna need to sign some people if they want to do anything with Trae Young. Honestly, that's my opinion. I don't with the guys they have now. I don't think they can if they develop them, and even if some of them get pretty good. I just think there's a ceiling to what they can do with the guys they have right now. So I'm gonna have to stick with
Okay.
overrated.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
And
think their
I think there's a
success
lot of
leans way too heavily on Trae Young, and he's way too
right,
smart
right.
to be doing that.
That is true. Yeah. Yeah, he kind of needs to be. Well, Curry is obviously not streaky, but Curry does have his off games. But, the Warriors are still able to kind of make up for it in a way because, they do have several other scorers and they can actually, like, play defense. So, yeah, we'll see what the Hawks can do this year. But, Zach, the last team I got for you is the Warriors. Right now, they are 10-9. Yeah, are they overrated or are they underrated?
So without Clay Thompson, right? I think I think honestly, like just because you have the name like the Warriors of how well they've done, and you have Steph Curry. I'd honestly like say they're overrated because the West is just so tough this year. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and I mean, there's no way they're gonna, with the Clippers and the Lakers. I mean, they don't have a shot. I'm sorry, but I mean, I just think they're a little overrated. I mean, Andrew Wiggins. He's always had his like trouble with getting to that next level, and I mean, I honestly don't see him doing it. So I think they're a little overrated just because they are the Warriors, and I think honestly, Draymond Green's a great player, and I don't think he gets the respect he deserves. But I mean,
Don't.
he needs good players around him for him to be at his best, and I just don't think that they have they don't have the team that they did. So I'm gonna have to say
Right.
overrated.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you because, I mean, I think they are a little overrated. I think people expected James Wiseman to be better. I think people expected him to make the team better. I'm not saying, he's putting up bad stats or anything, but overall, he's not making really the team better. And I feel like Kelly Oubre and Andrew Wiggins is kind of a weird combination, to be honest. I don't really see them, fitting in as well together. I know the Warriors are, they've been in trade talks about Kelly Oubre. But, I guess when you got Steph Curry, you always got a shot of at least making the playoffs. So I think the Warriors might get in as a very, very low seed. But again, like you said, I don't really see them doing anything. But I think they're, you know, a little overhyped because you're right, they are the Warriors. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And honestly, I think that's the change we're seeing in basketball nowadays is that these teams are getting so good. It's almost like, in going into the season, there's like 3 or 4 teams, not even, I'd say like 2 or 3 that you almost know are going to win because these teams are so good.
Mhm.
So like, I mean, before, like, it wasn't totally like, it wasn't not plausible that a 4 seed could make a run. But I think nowadays teams are just so damn good that, you know, it's hard
Yeah,
to, they're either
especially in the West. Yeah,
right. The West is always good.
because you know the Jazz right now, as we speak, are the #1 seed in the West.
Right.
So they, you know, they look much different this year. Well, I guess they don't look much different, but Jordan Clarkson has really done a great job. You know, so yeah, the Warriors don't really have a shot in the West. Yeah, so I think they're overrated. So I'm gonna
With
agree with
Clay
you.
Thompson, they're definitely, you know,
A
I think
contender.
they're up there. I mean,
Yeah,
they
for
can
sure.
compete, but they just
Yeah, top 4 team with Clay for sure. But
right.
all right, well, Zach, that's all you know, I got for you today. I'm really glad I could have you on, or we could have you on, because I'm trying to get Ryan as more of a part of the show, I guess, too. He's kind of coming into it a little bit, but yeah, thanks again, you know, for joining us, and we'll for sure do this again.
Well, thank you for having me, Dylan.
All right, peace out, bud.
See ya. Have a good one.
You too. All right, so in baseball news, just happened yesterday because we're filming this on Saturday. Nolan Arenado has been traded to the St. Louis Cardinals after, you know, years of him wanting to leave Colorado. Well, I shouldn't say years because he just signed an extension, but the Cardinals kind of got him in a steal. I'll be honest. They gave up 5, you know, fairly mediocre prospects. So Ryan, what were your kind of thoughts on the Nolan Arenado trade?
I mean, I think this definitely puts the Cardinals as a top team now.
Mhm.
There's no doubt about it. They're probably going to take everything pretty easily for a while, and I think it's for years to come. I mean, they're a good team and they're going to stay like that. But I think like a really big part of this trade is how it's going to affect the Cubs. I feel like this gives the Cubs a chance to kind of clean house and rebuild because it seems like now there's no chance for them really as a
Right.
team. So it gives them that opportunity and excuse to rebuild as a team.
Yeah, and the Cubs are definitely already starting on that rebuild, you know, with trading Yu Darvish. And, you know, it doesn't look like they're going to sign Wilson Contreras either. But yeah, this is a great trade for the Cardinals. You know, they've been known for, you know, getting established players for a while now and, you know, staying good for a long period of time. So, you know, that kind of division, you know, it's a lot of sleepers in there, but I think the Cardinals are going to take the division pretty easily as long as Arenado can put up, you know, the same numbers he did in Coors Field. And, you know, I would expect his home run numbers to skyrocket, you know, because Coors Field is his home field. And, you know, that's such a tough field to hit homers in. So this is a great trade for the Cardinals. I think the Rockies could have got a little more out of him, but, you know, they've been trying to trade him for so long. I think they just kind of realized, you know, this is as much as they're going to get for him. You know, and for the Cardinals, it's great too because he's locked up for a while because, you know, he signed that big extension only just last year. So yeah, again, great trade for the Cardinals. Look at them as, I wouldn't say World Series contenders, but, you know, they're going to be a tough playoff team with Nolan Arenado and, you know, the rest of the team around them. That's all we got on the show today. Ryan, thank you again for joining me. Zach, you're a great guest. I'm glad we can have him on. We got our first player next week on the show. I'll put up a thing on my Instagram if you want to ask him any questions. It's I won't say the name, but it's college football player, so you can ask him college football related questions. But thank you everybody for tuning into Next on Deck this week. We'll see you next week.